Kristine Lily. I am a former member of the U.S. Women's National Team. I played 23 years for the U.S. Women's National Soccer Team. I won 2 World Cups, 2 gold medals. Oh gosh, what else?
Kristine, 354 international appearances in that as well.
I played 354 times for my country, which is a crazy number. And I was 23 years on the team. Oh, geez, in the Hall of Fame for U.S. Soccer and Olympic Hall of Fame. I currently am an author. I co-authored a book called Powerhouse about teamwork, helping organization business be more successful. I run my own Kristine Lily Soccer Academy soccer camps, and I also co-founded Team First Soccer Academy, which I run with Mia Hamm and Tish Ventrini, former teammates and friends of mine. And we travel around the country and world teaching soccer and empowering young girls to feel good about themselves. And I'm a mom of 2, and a wife, and a daughter, and a sister.
Kristine, thank you. I really appreciate you making time and being on the Better Than Peter podcast. Quite an introduction. I'm sorry I had to sneak in there, but I couldn't help the fact that you cannot omit 354 international appearances. It's quite astounding to me that somebody had the longevity as you did. But just for the audience, take us a little bit back from the early days. I read that you started playing with boys when you were really early, and there wasn't really any program, so to speak. So just a little bit of your early start, and when did you break into the national team?
Yeah, of course. Well, I grew up in Connecticut, a small town on the East Coast of the United States. I have an older brother, and basically whatever my older brother did, I wanted to do. I was very fond of actually baseball, and that was my first love. But then I was playing with the boys in baseball because there was no girls playing. I was playing with the boys in soccer because there wasn't any girls teams. And then we were just a very sports family oriented. And then I started to continue to play all of them and still love baseball, but I started to excel in soccer a bit more. And it wasn't until I got in 8th grade or high school time was when I started playing with the girls. And then I was kind of dominating the team I was on and the teams we played. And then when I was a junior,
were you playing multiple positions at that age, or was it strictly one position?
No, I don't even remember the positions I was playing as a kid. I think you just were on the field running around. And then in high school, I pretty much played center midfield the whole time. And then I played, in the States, they have you make a state team, the best in your state. So I was playing for the Connecticut. And I think I was still playing midfield, maybe some forward then. And then when I was a junior in high school, I got asked to go to a youth national camp. And that was where I met Mia Hamm, Julie Foudy, Joy Fawcett. And the 4 of us got asked to join the full national team when I was in 1987, when I was 16 years old.
You gave away your age a little bit, but yeah, 16 years old. And Mia Hamm, was she what, 15 at that time?
She was 15, yes, correct. So we joined the team then in 87, didn't have any clue about the U.S. Women's National Team. I mean, the U.S. Women's National Team didn't start till 1985, so it was just about 2 years old and weren't that busy at the time. And joined the team and quickly learned what it was all about. And I was like, shoot, I wanna keep playing on this team. So my career spanned from 87 to 2010. Played 5 World Cups, 3 Olympics in that time span, but also changed the minds of soccer in America and I think the world, and really was part of something that I couldn't even imagine. And so grateful to be on that team during that time and then see where the game is now. It's really exciting.
Till you were called to the camp, did you think that you could make a career from soccer, or was it still a hobby at that time?
It was just playing. I had no idea. I didn't even know the national team existed, so I didn't know there was anything out there. As a kid, I wanted to be in the Olympics, but soccer wasn't in the Olympics, so I thought maybe, okay, gymnastics or something. So women's soccer there wasn't a pro league, there wasn't a World Cup, there wasn't Olympics, so we were just playing. And so when I made the team, I was like, oh, this is fun. I just want to keep trying to make it each time we have a camp or a trip to go on. And then they started to have the first World Cup in 91. And even after that, a lot of us were like, what are we going to do now? Because we didn't know if there was going to be another World Cup because it was kind of a test. And then there was another World Cup and then there was Olympics and then things started to change. And then we started to realize that we could get paid and we're like, what? We can get paid? So all these things kind of happened and it's just great to be a part of.
Talking about getting paid, you got paid a whopping $10 a day from when you were representing the U.S. national team. $10, even counting inflation and everything, that probably is not even $20 today. $20 a day for an athlete representing his country at the highest level. Back then, $10 a day, I don't think that would have got you much, but was it completely for love of the game, or did you just not realize that you could make money playing professionally at that time?
It was kind of both. It was for the, I mean, initially it's just to play. I mean, I think back then, I mean, soccer in the United States in general wasn't very big.
Right.
And then, you know, when I made the team, I got to compete. And one of the things I thought was so incredible for me when I made the national team was I suddenly were around other women that were like me. So like I talked earlier, I played with boys growing up. And then I played with girls, but they weren't as competitive as mine. So I still didn't find my niche of people. And then when I joined the US team, I was like, holy cow, these women are strong, competitive, fun, want to work hard, and are just cool. And I was like, this is so great. So I was just trying to figure out how to continue to be a part of that. When we made the team, obviously I was young. There were some players in their 20s or in college. So getting paid, I don't think we would have been able to take that if we wanted to play in college. But we still, when we got $10 a day, as a 16-year-old, I'm like, oh, this is cool. I go away, I come home with like $100 and, you know, life seems great. And then we started to understand it a little bit more and realize that we were giving up, when we signed our contracts, we were just giving up our likeness and our rights. And they were just, you know, although they weren't really promoting the women's game, they were still using us. So then we started to realize, oh, we can get paid. And we started to realize, I'm like, oh my gosh, that was just an added bonus to what we were doing, because we were doing something we loved. We wanted to compete. We wanted to be the best in the world. And then realizing that we can get paid in the process was something that was eye-opening and very welcoming.
Yeah, I think it's just for context. I mean, it seems very hard, but back then, soccer was not really on the map when you talked about Americas. It was even for the men's program. I remember this was probably sometime in the middle 90s when, if I'm not mistaken, Jurgen Klinsmann came over to play a little bit of MLS towards the end of his career. And even that was such a big deal because even the MLS could not attract any serious talent. And I think only towards the late 90s, early 2000s, did US start consistently making the World Cup. On the other hand, the women's program dominated pretty much from the get-go. And even that's ironic that even though they were dominating, it probably did not reflect in the pay. But you were very well received internationally when you traveled. I saw a little bit of the documentary. You were a bit like playing out to stadiums with more than 50,000 people. And talk us a little bit through that journey where you go from a little bit of an obscure environment and then you're playing internationally to a full house.
Yeah, so it was interesting time. And like you talked about, soccer wasn't very big in the United States. 1994, the men hosted the World Cup, you know, and that was kind of like a big thing for the US. And then we had soccer for women in the Olympics in 96, and we won the first gold medal. And that was really kind of for the women's side, kind of the springboard into the growth of the game and the attention that the women's team got. Mia Hamm became the face of women's soccer after that. And I mean, obviously carried it well and promoted the game so incredibly. So we were just kind of going with the punches and with the flow. And I think the 99 World Cup that we hosted in the United States for the women, when we won and we had 90,000 people, 40 million watching it, was really another big moment of change for the game. And then we would travel to other countries and became really liked and excited to see. And what's funny is the 91 World Cup in China, it was the first one. And we played in front of 64,000 people there. So it's just funny to look back at like the World Cup, the final, we had 64,000 people. Then the Olympics, we had another 64,000. So, I mean, so the big events, we were getting these crowds. It was just the friendlies that were struggling to get them. And we realized part of that was they weren't promoting it.
Right.
Like we would be in a city and we'd run into soccer fans and they're like, oh my gosh, you guys are here. Why? Like, well, we just played last night. You didn't see, you know, so there was a disconnect there. And that was really, we kept winning and we're like, come on, then we got to use this momentum to help the game and help us grow. And we weren't just being promoted enough.
I bet Instagram would have helped a lot back then.
Oh, yeah.
You know, controlling your own social media profiles and having the platforms, because let's face it, I mean, somebody now doesn't really need the governing body or whatever the board is,
Right.
or to be you, if you perform well, for the most part you gain your own following, and some of it may also be directly with the team and some of it might be independently. And I think successful athletes have, especially now, been smart enough to utilize that. But this is something which I wanted to ask, and I don't think I've heard anybody ask you this. I'm fascinated a little bit about the diet of you in particular, but also the team. I'm assuming there wasn't too much of a vegan or a protein smoothie culture back then, especially with $10 a day. Were you having hamburgers and hot dogs and training, or was there anybody conscious enough to realize that diet's a big part of it as well?
That was a process as well. And I think when I look back at like 1995, when we first we were under contract and got some money, we were training in Florida, and we'd have in the morning, and we literally, all the players would pitch in $5 each, and someone would go get bagels and bring them back. So we'd have food after practice right away. So even back then, we were still not getting the training regimen that is needed. But also, I have on the other flip side of it, the growth of the training for eating, what athletes should eat, has changed so incredibly. So we were in a different world. I mean, we were getting meals. Our biggest argument at times, Julie Foudy, our captain, would always tease, and we'd go to hotels and have our meals in our room, in our dining area, and be like, can't we just get some cheddar cheese instead of American sliced cheese? Like, we were getting the crappy American sliced cheese when cheddar was something we were looking for. So it was a progress, but we were eating chicken. There was vegetables, there was salad, there was fruit. There was a balance of stuff. I always had a peanut butter and jelly sandwich before games because that was the easiest thing on my belly. I mean, that was like 2 hours before, and then I'd have pasta and chickens and stuff like that. So it was definitely a growing process, and a lot of us were learning what we should eat. But I think the other biggest thing about our diet that was recognizable is we weren't eating enough. So with the amount that we were training, when we finally had a nutritionist come in, we'd have our food diaries, and they're like, you need more than 1,900 calories. You need like 2,300. So we learned that we needed to eat more because of how much we were training and how much.
When did the nutritionist come on board?
That was like 95, 96 when we started getting a contract, and Tony DiCicco was our coach, and he did great things, brought in a sports psychologist to help, and then a nutritionist. And that was just at moments. We didn't have them travel with us, but just to give us an idea of what, we should be fueling in our body, and to helping us be ready and game ready and healthy.
You played at the highest level for 22 years. Give me the secret sauce a little bit. I'm keen to know the longevity. It's a sport where people do get injured. I mean, there's knee injuries, there's ACLs. If you had peanut butter and jelly, I'm a little bit, I was hoping for something more, to be honest, Kristine.
I had more than just peanut butter and jelly.
Yeah, I mean, so tell me a little bit more about how did you stay on the park? How did you stay fit for as long as you did?
I have to tell you, the fitness was the biggest part of my game. Like, when a lot of, in the early years, say the 87 to like 93, we didn't have pro league. So when we were with the national team for 2 weeks, and we'd go home for like 3 months, we had to train on our own. Okay. So we were running and doing ball touches as much as we can. I mean, I didn't have much to play with, someone to play with. So I was kicking the ball against the wall, but in my fitness, I always was fit, whatever the testing may be, like wind sprints, full field sprints, whatever it was, I made sure that I was fit. So I think that my fitness was really the backbone to my career. My grandma lived to be 92 and never had her license. She walked everywhere. So maybe in the Lily family, we had good genes, but there were just elements. And I was just fortunate. Maybe my size, I have big hamstrings. Maybe that has something to do with it.
You're pretty tiny, though. You're what, 5'3", 5'4"?
Yeah, I'm not very big, but I have strong legs, and just was fortunate. I mean, not to say I don't have things now when I'm, almost 50, my back, I've still got things, you just kind of feeling things. I'm like, well, maybe this was because I played 23 years or.
Yeah, I mean, maybe getting up on a cold Boston morning would definitely, you'd feel a little stiff, right? playing as long as you did. Yeah. Does it feel sometimes that 20 years has lapsed since, you, or 23 years? I mean, sometimes wouldn't you just, I don't know if you're talking with Mia or some of your other fellow players, I'm sure you would go through, can you really believe it's been that long?
Oh, what's funny, Ron? We just had it's been 25 years since we won the gold medal in 1996. And we just had like a little, because some of us went to this event together, and we were all like, 25 years ago? What? Like, it's hard to believe. And I think when I talked to and Mia and Tish and some of my other friends, I'm like, well, what happened? We were like in our late 20s playing soccer, traveling the world, and now we got kids and back aches and hitting 50. We're like, what? So it has been some time, but I think it's when I look back at the time that I played, you know, you remember the big moments on the field. Obviously, people talk about that most, but it was the players, it was the locker room, it was the time on the road together, getting to know each other. And these girls, you know, to this day, I can reach out to for anything, and everybody would be like, "Yep, what do you need? Here we go." And so that's really really neat.
Any slight regrets that maybe you were born a little bit 10 years earlier, and perhaps if you played in today's era, you know, you'd just be a much more bigger global brand, just because soccer is, and women's soccer, especially in the US, is so much bigger now. It's a global stage, and then a lot more acceptance is coming overall as a society, whereas back then, as you said, there was no real program. So do you feel sometimes that you really missed out just by being born in the wrong era?
You know what? I don't. I think when I look at the time that I was a part of, I feel so grateful because the generation right before me missed out. You know, they didn't.
That's a good way of looking at it, actually.
They missed out on what I was a part of
Yeah,
and the money that I did make, or the trail that we did blaze. But I think when you look at anything, there's always people before that enabled you to be where you are.
correct.
And that's not just the soccer world. You know, Billie Jean King was a big part of the women's movement here in the United States. And now when you look at the players now, I think they realize there was a lot before them that got to them to this point, to what they're fighting for. So there is. The only thing I regret is I wish I had my kids a little bit earlier and met my husband earlier so they could be a part of it a little bit longer than they were.
And if I'm not mistaken, you played after your first kid was born. Is
Yes.
that correct?
Mhm. Yeah. So I had my first daughter and I went back to play. And then I got pregnant with my second and I was like, I can't do this.
Yeah,
Plus
and
I was almost 40 and I'm like, this is too much.
how long did it take you from giving birth to being back on the field?
I had my baby in July and I was back in with the team in November, but not 100%. That was kind of like I could go in and I played a little bit of a game then. But
And
yes, probably August, September, October, 4 months.
4 months. Okay. Wow, I mean, that's still pretty, that's pretty
That's pretty
quick.
quick.
Yeah. And you've had so many highlights. When we were researching, we said, first of all, let's make sure we get, when we were making the announcement, that it's 2 Olympic gold medals, 2 world championships. We wanted to make sure that I don't make a fool of myself. But is there one moment which sticks out more than the others, or any two moments which stick out in your memory, which you go back and you're like, gosh, that's one of the biggest highlights of my career?
Yeah, well, I mean, I really have to hit the 99 World Cup because that summer and that World Cup, there were so many doubters on the women's game. Not that we would win, but that we would sell out this event, that it would be a success. Everyone thought it was going to be a flop. Everyone was going to lose money, and then it ended up being a total success. And that really kind of pushed women's soccer more in the public's eyes, but also in the business world and the marketing and partnerships that we got after that event. So that was incredible on a social scale and as an athlete to be able to continue to be an athlete and have money to be able to live and compete and all that stuff. But I think for me, when I look back at the whole thing, I look back at my career, the 23 years, because in that time, so much changed and I was a part of so much and I learned so much and I worked hard during that time. So I think I'm so grateful for that 23-year period in my time on the team that doesn't really have one pinpoint standpoint, one moment that really stands out. So I'd have to say just the longevity and then the 99 World Cup kind of just catapulting women's soccer into the forefront.
Okay. What's keeping you busy right now, or are there other
Yeah, and then I
commitments?
coach. I coach young kids. I coach in a small club here, so that's been busy. We've been playing. We've been playing here since the fall, so that's been good. And then just constant, doing public speaking events for my book, a couple of virtual.
The book would, or what the readers will get out of the book?
Yeah. Well, basically, it shares the success of the U.S. women's national team, not just my success, but why we were so successful. So they have 13 different tactics, going off my number, obviously. And then each chapter, I interview one of my former teammates that shares, about communication, chemistry, whatever, leadership of what worked for us and why we were successful. Because it's not only the U.S. Women's National Team that we won so much, we were always at the top we're still at the top. This is going on, I don't know, since 1987, we've been in the top of the world rankings forever. So why? And so this book has kind of created shares that information and helps organizations be better. How can you run your group, your team, your company better? And I speak on that, and that's been really a lot of fun, because you get in these business corporations and you hear about like, okay, this data, this, and then you bring in a sports person. They're like, oh, cool. You get to hear sports stories while they're helping you realize like, oh, if we add this to our group, maybe we'd run a little bit better, or people would be a little happier. So that's pretty much what Powerhouse has enabled me to do and what I'm sharing through the book.
Kristine, what's something which you feel that in your career you've done it all, but now have you never thought about coaching, say like a professional team or maybe an international team, or has just been being in Boston being a priority for you with the kids?
Yeah, someone else just asked me that recently, and I don't have a desire to coach at the highest levels, national or pro. I enjoy coaching youth soccer, so that's been my kind of turning into my love, since I can't play anymore. Nothing will ever replace playing the game, because I think that's something that was so incredible. But now just trying to do that, and I think it takes a lot. And I have a newfound respect for all my coaches going through this process now, because it is not easy. It's not easy to bring a team together. It's not easy to motivate individuals. Not easy to have a common goal, like we talk about in my book, Powerhouse, and have everybody know that this is our goal. And the only way we do that is everyone has to sacrifice and do their job. So trying to orchestrate that is a challenge. But I'm enjoying coaching youth sports, youth soccer, and then running my camps and teaching kids and having fun. And that's really kind of the element I'm trying to bring back, is the fun to the game.
You just look as fit as ever. Are you still somewhat training? Because you look really incredibly fit.
Yeah, no, I'm still fit. I mean, not like I was fit, but I'm still trying to, I'd be as active as I can. And, I wish I was still training like I used to, but I just can't. And I think what I realized as I've aged and grown and learned is more time off is better for me. But I still like going for a run. I still, try to do stuff with my kids, bike rides and runs, and play soccer with them. So whatever can keep me healthy and active and being able to play with the kids is something that I'm really trying to do and be happy, because working out always made me happy. So I do still need that in my life.
And where can somebody order your book?
Amazon, of course, for Powerhouse. You can email me at KristineLilySA@gmail.com, and I can send a personalized one, and we can work on Venmo, and I can send in the mail. So there's many different ways. Or go to my website, KristineLily13.com, and you can click on there, the link to the Amazon to buy it and read a little bit more about it.
Why did you pick the number 13?
Kind of got stuck. Rowan, I wish I had this incredible story, because everyone asks. But I was a young
I was
person
expecting a different answer. I kid you not. I thought that you wanted to defy the odds, challenge the wisdom that 13 is unlucky, and you defied it by playing 300 plus times.
Yeah,
so
hopefully I've changed the mentality on 13, but I was stuck with it. But it's something that's a part of my life now. My kids, wear the number, we use it a lot in the house. And when I go into a hotel and I happen to see a 13th floor, I'm like, oh,
you get excited about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Perfect. Listen, thank you. I really, really appreciate, Kristine, you making time. We've been very fortunate on the podcast to get some real quality guests, but in terms of sporting pedigree, you're right up there. Really, thank you for making time for us on the podcast.
Thank you so much.